As Elizabeth mentioned, my name is Wendy Johncheck. I'm actually with the ORA Produce Safety Network. So similar to Stephen, I'm with the Produce Safety Network, but I'm with the Office of Regulatory Affairs. I'm based out of Massachusetts, so I'm located in the Northeast. There are two other ORA Produce Safety Network staff members located in the Northeast. We have Erin Negel, who's actually at the table over here. She's based out of Buffalo. And then we also have Colin Wilson, who's based in Maine and who's not able to be with us today. So our job as ORA Produce Safety Network staff, we get that all the time. We do conduct inspections, so a part of our job is to actually conduct inspections on behalf of the agency. Part of our job is to do what I'm doing right now, stand up also, give outreach on the produce safety rule, on our inspectional program. We also work with state partners. Today I'm going to give an update on the inspections and the rollout in 2019 and some of the challenges we've, as regulatory agencies across the board, have faced in rolling them out, and then where are we going in 2020. I just want to say right up front, the part of my job where we actually conduct inspections, I think it keeps it real, and so I do really value that, and I know that a lot of the other team members, of my team members do as well. It's really hard to actually stand in front of a farmer and ask them to do something, to have a discussion about particular items. And I think it is really valuable to have folks who are doing the crossover up here, giving outreach, doing technical assistance, but also actually having to, face farmers, work with farmers on a day-to-day basis. So just want to note that just before we dive right into where we are with inspections. Sorry, Elizabeth, do we just push it down, or it's not moving forward?
Sitting on top of a duplicate.
Yeah, that's what it's doing.
Yep, and so you should be able to just.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. So as many of the folks know in this room, we started inspections spring 2019 of large farms. There are various entities across the country, regulatory authorities, actually implementing those inspections. So right now, the way it stands is that we have 44 states who are developing their own inventories, building their own produce safety programs, and conducting inspections. The Northeast states, all Northeast states fall into this category. Of the 44 states, we have 16 of these states who are actually conducting inspections under FDA authority instead of their own illegal authority. We have 3 states Oregon, Iowa, and North Dakota, who are developing their own inventory of produce safety farms, or produce farms, and FDA is conducting inspections in those locations. And then we have 3 states where FDA is both developing inventory and conducting inspections, and that's Illinois, South Dakota, and Wyoming. FDA is also responsible for developing inventory in the U.S. territories, in Washington, D.C., and foreign countries that are exporting to the U.S., and also in tribal nations. So they are doing the inventory development and the inspections in those locations. So given that we've got a large variety of different regulatory entities actually implementing the produce safety programs and the inspections, there was an interest in having some level of standardization across the board. FDA, NASDA state partners worked on development of both a standardized inspectional approach and compliance approach. And there are documents out there, they're public documents that are being utilized by states and FDA. As part of that, I think the takeaway for this group is for spring or for 2019, initial inspections are intended to be pre-announced, and they're also intended to be educational in nature. And so instead of, and the only time that anything would appear on an observation sheet or a form that's given to the actual grower would be if it was egregious in nature. So that's been kind of the spirit of the rollout in 2019, and I think that what data we're getting in from our Office of Partnerships is getting in, what FDA is doing, I think that's been consistent with how the rollout has occurred. In addition, FDA, NASDA, and states also worked on a standardized form that states and FDA could use to hand out to the grower at the end of an inspection. Currently, we don't actually have, well, we have the data, just we haven't released it. It's forthcoming in terms of whether states and have actually utilized the form and to what extent they have. Lastly, in terms of standardization, because we have 16 states who are conducting inspections under FDA authority, and as well as FDA doing inspections in 6 states and then in foreign countries, these states actually, in these locations we're actually following the FDA assignment that was released in spring of 2019, and that assignment actually spells out in detail what an inspection, how an inspection is to be carried out. It references all these documents that you see listed on the slide and provides additional detail. So in terms of standardization, even though there are multiple entities developing their own programs, there is an effort to have that standardization in place. So target numbers. So in terms of the first year, FDA had asked states and FDA carrying out the inspections to, they had set a target number to reach in terms of number of inspections. So what we're looking at, states with a number of large farms less than or equal to 10% of their total inventory were asked to inspect all their large farms. States with a number of large farms greater than 10% of their total inventory were asked to inspect the number of large farms equal to 10% of their total inventory. So where are we right now? So that in terms of the data that we have with us right now, so for produce safety rule inspections from last spring to current, FDA has conducted 150 domestic inspections, 42 foreign inspections. FDA, in conjunction with state partners, have followed up on 14 investigations, as they're referred to at FDA, but we're really looking at emergency response activities. And these have, like I said, been either FDA-led or state-led, but those are a combination. What is not on this slide is the number of inspection or investigations that have been carried out within a state that FDA doesn't have access to that data. So just note that there may be more investigations of that nature. In addition, so we had those 44 states. Those 44 states combined have done approximately 990 inspections, and that's through October. Great. So PSR, Produce Safety Rule Implementation Challenges. It's a new program. I think Stephen alluded to that. He talked about some of the mechanisms FDA is working on to address some of those issues that were some of the challenges we're facing. I think first and foremost, and I heard it many times yesterday in the room, just a consistent interpretation of the produce safety rule. So within a state, within a group of investigators across states, it's a challenge. It's a challenge when programs are 10 years on. We're first year, we're going into our second year, so clearly a challenge. So the other thing is, in a lot of states and with FDA, the inspection infrastructure we're still working on it. We're still working on IT systems to support our inspections. So it just makes carrying out those inspections that much harder. That's the reality. If we look back where we were a year ago to where we are now, we've made a lot of progress. The other item is I'd be curious, I'd be interested in hearing from folks today the extent that you're actually facing this in the Northeast. I know that FDA in particular is dealing a lot with identification of inspection location in relation to the farm definition. And so farm definition change aside, what we're talking about a farm that has multiple fields, maybe 2 packing houses. I'm just giving an example. When does that become, but it's all one legal entity, when does that become one farm, one inspectional site versus 2 inspectional sites? So many issues, lots of different scenarios. We're still working on that. So resources, I heard Pennsylvania yesterday allude to just some of the resource issues, getting more investigators, inspectors up trained so that they can carry out the inspections. FDA's in the same boat. I think that's many states are. We're still working on getting adequate human resources to the table to meet some of those targets. Travel, that's very specific to FDA. So next one is very relevant to folks in this room. How do we go out on those inspections, assignment, we finish, we're tired, we move on to the next inspection, potentially. But how do we ensure that the outreach, training, and technical assistance that needs to occur is identified and followed up on when we're out on those inspections? I heard it come through yesterday. It was great to hear some of that coming through. And then finally, coordination on some of the sites, some of the farms that actually are subject to multiple FSMA rules, and in some cases not FSMA rules, juice HACCP. This definitely affects growers in the Northeast. So that we are moving, we've had some progress on this. I know that I've been working with some of the states to look at inventories so that we can see if there's any coordination that we can have, and I think there's a lot more progress that we can make in this direction. So 2020 inspections, where are we going? So we're going to look, this year we have the potential to start small farm inspections, but that doesn't necessarily mean all states will be starting small farms inspections, so we'll be definitely continuing with large inspections and starting the small inspections. Some states may also be doing all of their large farms again and starting with their small. It really depends at this point. We're going to be utilizing the same inspection enforcement approach and documents as in 2019. And for states those 16 states who are going in under FDA authority, and for FDA, we will be still using the same assignment. The amended assignment is due to come out any day. And it's the only additional items, besides adding small in multiple times throughout the assignment, we're going to be looking at what it looks like to maybe go back to certain farms where there were issues found during the initial inspection. So that's all I have for today, but if you have questions, feel free to ask me later, but also ask Erin and myself at the end of throughout the day.